intelligence officer opposite may not agree with you, but you start to converge to get to the truth. And new information comes to light, and hopefully you converge on that truth. So in doing my job as an intelligence analyst, I was sacked for telling what my analysis was. Now I stand by that analysis exactly now. 18 months down the line, nothing has come to light which remotely challenges the fact that I was right, you know, that I erred in what I did. So I'm pleased with what I've done. I had a duty of care, I followed through with my conscience, and sadly I've ended up getting dismissed and on the verge of bankruptcy. But the reason why I'm doing this is not for compensation, it's that I believe it's in the public interest for this case to keep on going. Now, the judge today has dismissed it, right? The Employment Appeal Tribunal saying, no, South Yorkshire Police had reasonable, that to behave reasonably in dismissing me, and that as a point of law, we can't really challenge that. However, he has left, he's not slammed the door down, not completely. Therefore, there is a court of appeal, so now it's getting into a quite high area now, whereby under the public interest disclosure, because I wasn't legally represented at the unfair hearing, right, we never cited the Public Interest Disclosure Act. Ian Crane, who represented me in September, wasn't a trained lawyer, but to all intents and purposes, he was arguing that I was making a protected disclosure, and I shouldn't be dismissed, especially when I'm the analyst assessing the threat. If analysis is the very product, strategic threat analysis, that should keep chief constables awake at night, and the fact that I was giving them unpalatable news, it was only doing my job. Why should you be sacked? Especially as there's no end of evidence that was presented today on 7/7 analysis and on all the people who've written widely on 9/11. It's not as if I'm a lone nut. There are serious academic, weighty people now.
Are you bound to an oath when you take the job with the police?
I sign the Official Secrets Act. But
are you bound to an oath to protect the public interest?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're a public servant and you have a duty of care. Yeah. And it's the duty of care that really, compel me to speak truthfully on this matter. It wasn't a trivial issue that we could sidestep round. I did my job as the principal intelligence analyst, and I have no regrets no matter what happens. And now we have, of course, as I say, to the High Court. But what I need is to expose this so that we can start to demonstrate equality of arms. In other words, it's time now the public woke up to this, because it's dangerous if we don't. And that if I can get that public support behind me, I mean, I've not got bad support in the truth movement, but it's not as high profile as it needs to be by the time I get to High Court. But interestingly, the judge has left it open, so it's not inconceivable that the analysis that is available that completely discredits 9/11 and 7/7 could be actually tested in a court. And that's all we can hope for. Whether we will ever get there is another matter. But I'm committed to keep on trying until I drop or win, and irrespective of the consequences. It's that important from a public interest perspective. And I was fortunate enough to land on last week a very interesting character, QC Michael Shrimpton, who has appeared on the Alex Jones show in an interview, and his secondary discipline, besides being a barrister, is a strategic intelligence analyst at the highest levels. So he has contacts in America, in the CIA, and in the British intelligence, in MI5, MI6. But he himself is saying there is something radically wrong here. Now, you need his views don't exactly square with my views, but there's enough commonality, and his respect for the intelligence analysis function and his appreciation of it was ample for him to portray that importance of that function in front of a judge, because in a way that's what he is, an intelligence analyst. So it was very helpful to have him come in at the 11th hour, because up until last week I was doing this myself and I would have stood no chance, but at least there was a very strong, healthy, high quality debate on the legal side this morning.
Public record.
And it's on the public record.
Very good.
So there you have it. Tony Farrell, a UK police analyst, intelligence analyst, blowing the whistle, but then being driven out of the agency. Of course, nothing really going on there, I'm sure. At any rate, we have the anniversary of the 7/7 bombings coming up in just a couple weeks here in, of course, July, and more reason than ever to shine a spotlight on that and all the false flags. 9/11, the Madrid bombing, the list is really pretty infinite, all having to do supposedly with Al-Qaeda. But then wait, we're backing Al-Qaeda in the Middle East. That's heating up once again. Not only did we put Al-Qaeda in as the Libyan rebels to topple Gaddafi, but now, of course, they are helping to topple Assad. That is heating up to the state of war. In fact, Assad himself has now declared Syria to be in a state of war, making it that much easier for the West to go full hot on what has been a covert war up to now, all part of the path to Persia and the possible luring of Russia, China, and other entities into a wider World War III, or what you would call it. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But, of course, the Syrian rebels stormed the state media, killed 7 people, and have effectively taken over that television station. Important, of course, to the bolstering of Assad's regime. Also iconic to the surge of the rebels. But again, the rebels are Al-Qaeda-backed Western forces. Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, and all the other United Nations entities have been backing the Syrian National Transition Council. Basma Kodmani was at the Bilderberg meeting this year, so it's very clear that the Transition Council is not only tied to Al-Qaeda, but entirely Western-backed. They're just trying to get Assad out of the way so they can get that Western foothold in there. But it's complicated with our connections to Russia and China and the tangled web we weave. But we've got Condoleezza Rice back in the news. They say she's a possible vice presidential candidate for Romney, but either way, she loves this going hot with Syria. She wants us to back the rebels because, well, Russia's funding Assad. And while I'm sure that's true, we don't need to further strengthen the rebel force we've already backed. It's already been CIA trained, Mossad trained, British MI6 trained, all of it. We put them in there. It's very transparent, but let's go to that clip now of Condi calling basically for blood in the Middle East. Once again, she didn't do enough in her years presiding over the Iraq War.
Let's make alliance with those who understand that Syria will never be stable with Bashar al-Assad in place. Let's help the opposition to organize, and Syria will be better off with Bashar al-Assad, and so will the Middle East.
You say help the opposition to organize. Do you support, like Senator McCain does, arming the rebels?
Yes, I do believe that you're probably ultimately going to have to arm
the rebels. It's a whole geostrategic game, and it's a perfect place to point out why the left and right really have no distinct difference in our currently occupied United States, because they both want war in the Middle East. In many ways, Obama's regime has been more effective at toppling domino pieces without the larger fallout. The Iraq War is still going on. It was a big controversy, lots of protesters. The Libya thing was quick. Real quick. The Middle Eastern uprising, the Arab Spring, supposedly this democratic movement. But look what we have a year later. We have Egypt run by the Muslim Brotherhood. All those areas getting more and more radicalized, and the West just loves it. They want a clash of civilizations. That's what these neocons and these people in the Obama left at the CFR and everything, they're part of the same larger group. They all want a larger clash of civilizations. Just look into it. Huntington, I think, has the book. Anyway, the very Syrian rebels that Condoleezza Rice wants us to back are now ransacking Christian churches, just showing how extreme they are, how anti-West they really are, yet they're supposedly our allies. Shocking images have emerged which show the aftermath of Christian churches ransacked by NATO-backed Syrian rebels, illustrating once again how Western powers are supporting Muslim extremists in their bid to achieve regime change in the Middle East. And it's got this guy here in priest robes and them tearing apart churches, setting them on fire, and on and on. And again, we're supposed to be in a war on terror against these extremists, Al-Qaeda and the rest of them, and yet they're our allies, and we're letting them ransack these churches in the Middle East just because it suits larger geopolitical strategy. And that's just some of the images. The rest are posted on Paul Joseph Watson's article at INFOWARS.com, but just shocking stuff that's going on in Syria. Meanwhile, you'd think after hiring pedophiles and enraging the public with their pat-down policies, the radiation scanners, and more, that the TSA would only go up from there. But Becky Akers breaks down how that, of course, was not the bottom of the barrel. Outrage again, as this week the TSA has opened and spilled the ashes of traveler John Grosh, who was transporting the remains of someone through the airport, but instead they opened it up and laughed as Grosh tried to pick up the bone fragments from the floor. Now, once again, giving good reason to be outraged at the TSA's policies, but that's not enough because the patent liars, the repeated liars, the known liars have accused Gross's version of being inaccurate, saying they basically followed policies, that their policy was never to open up human remains, I guess just to scan them, and that's supposedly even against the law, but it didn't stop them from basically defending the guy who did open it up and then laugh at the person trying to pick up the human remains. Just disgusting. When are we going to learn the TSA does not have our constitutional interests at heart or even just basic humanity, nor can they keep us safe, nor have they ever caught a terrorist? You put the pieces together. We'll turn now to the daily quote. A nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people. That's yet another quote from John F. Kennedy, of course, murdered by just one lone man. Anyway, we're going to turn now to Ask Alex, another segment from Planet InfoWars, which is your tool to fight the info war your way. We urge you to go sign up, join that network, help it grow, help reach people in the ways you think are most effective. But meanwhile, we've got a lengthy segment where Christy helps bring the questions to Alex. Watch for yourself, but stay tuned, because after that, we're going to go to break and come back with Carl Herman of Washington's blog to discuss pensions and the CAFR elephant in the room. Thanks for watching.
Hi, and welcome to the Ask Alex questions from the Ask Alex group on Planet InfoWars. I'm here with Alex Jones, and I'm Christy Hightower, so let's get started.
And let me just stop you.
Okay.
I got to interrupt. Trademark Alex Jones. I've noticed people online, and I got to respond to trolls because it's fun, saying this is scripted in here. This is not scripted.
No.
She came in here about 2 minutes ago, and I had time to look at the top here. We're doing the nightly news, 7 o'clock every night, the syndicated 3-hour radio show every day, InfoWars Live, and wouldn't matter if I'd already heard these questions, but the implication is...
We want you to be live. We want you to be...
Well, exactly, but the implication is that I couldn't talk on my feet.
Right.
Everybody knows it's the opposite. I have diarrhea of the mouth here, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't know about these questions yet. I've looked at one of them, and to be honest, sometimes I'm not going to